Welcome to Accountability Corner. My name is Tony Roberts. In today's episode, we're going to talk about how our culture's changed in the last half century or so. And you see it in organizations. In an organization, when there's a leadership problem, what you see is a lot of times decisions are made, and those decisions, people aren't held accountable for those decisions. So we have organizations like Volkswagen. I was reading an article and it said Volkswagen made a decision that cost its shareholders billions of dollars to come up with a way to cheat the system so they could have more emissions than they claimed to. Well, and of course the United States government eventually found out and fined them and so on and so forth. But the article said that Volkswagen did this. Now, Volkswagen did not do it. Someone in Volkswagen, working for Volkswagen, who was supposed to be working for the stakeholders and stockholders, who was supposed to be taking care of their best interests, a person made a decision to do that. Other people got on board with that decision, and multiple people, who knows how many, actually cheated the company they worked for. Now, the company got fined billions of dollars, but what happened to those people? I'll bet you they still work there, because we have created a society nowadays that we don't hold people accountable. We don't hold ourselves accountable, most importantly. You know, what does it say when a group of teenagers has to get together and march on the state capitol to try to get some relief so they can go to school without getting shot? What has happened to our society? People no longer take accountability for their actions. Now, let's take that horrible incident. The one here in Parkland, Florida, that young man, for years, he had been threatening to do it. He put it on YouTube. The government knew it. People knew it. Neighbors knew it. Students knew it. And everybody just passed the buck, hoping that the next person would do something about it. And the next person didn't do something about it. And now we have some wonderful young people that are no longer with us because we didn't take accountability. It's a societal thing. It's not, you can take guns and make it 6 days longer before you get an assault rifle, but that just means it's going to be 6 days later when someone uses it. So it's not gun control that will solve the problem. It's like an organization. It's the culture. It's the accountability. We have a culture nowadays, like in a lot of organizations, where the leaders are not held accountable and they do whatever they want. And if you look at our society and you look at our politicians in some states are just telling people if a company wants to take your land for a mineral, they will, without your permission, without even telling you. Now, what does that say when they're just taking something that you had to pay for and work for? Our government is out of control. Our leaders no longer are accountable for anything. And we watch them do these things, and we don't fire them, we don't impeach them, we don't demand that they leave office. We let them stay. We are not accountable for making sure that we have a good government, so we have the atmosphere and the environment where people can go to school safely. Things have changed. A long time ago, you know, when I went to school, I never even imagined of somebody coming with a gun and shooting because it was unheard of. Now, it could be that there wasn't as much on the news back then, but I don't think that was just it. It was a different time, and people held themselves to higher standards. Parents were accountable for their children. They didn't expect the school system to teach their children morals and values and ethics. They didn't expect the boss to teach the employee morals and values and ethics. In other words, we no longer are accountable for our own actions, and we don't hold other people accountable. And of course, everything breaks down. Chaos ensues. This happens in organizations, and I know most of you listening to me have seen this in organizations where leaders aren't accountable, and they do things they shouldn't do. They say things they shouldn't say. They hurt the actual organization that's paying them. Our government is doing the same thing, and we're doing the same thing when we try to go after the gun manufacturers or gun control. When there's so many people that knew that something was wrong and did nothing about it. Now, some people mentions to some people, and some people try to refer to mental health and things like that, referring to a mental health institution, but it didn't work. Somebody else said no. And then, so they dropped it instead of continuing to follow up and push it because, well, we knew it was a time bomb waiting to go off. We let it go. We dropped the ball. We just passed it to somebody else. We did our part, and look what happened. We didn't prevent anything. What we did is facilitate it. So, the bottom line is, our society has become apathetic, and our society has really got to a point where people don't take accountability for the society anymore. We want a civil society where we can go out and get the things we want and have beautiful roads and beaches and things and enjoy ourselves. But we're no longer taking any kind of effort to actually be involved. We've got to be involved with the government. We've got to be involved with the decisions. And we've got to be involved with taking care of each other. Society is just a larger organization, and it will break down if we don't have standards that we hold ourselves to and others. So we have to watch other people. We don't let other people get hurt. If we do, then they'll do the same thing for us. It's called reciprocity. In other words, is it time, instead of yelling at politicians and telling them, you know, what they should do with guns and what they shouldn't do with guns, instead of trying to make them do things that politicians tend to do things that benefit them, because we've allowed that to happen, and they're no longer very accountable for anything. If you look at the criminal record of people we got in Congress, they're worse than a gang in some cases. We, as members of society, just like members of an organization, have to start taking time to be accountable. Now, that doesn't mean you have to watch everybody else and report on them. This is not socialism. But it does mean that you help people and you watch their back. And if you see something's going to happen, like you see a kid going to step off a curb in front of a car, would you reach out and try to stop him? Or just say, well, I guess the little guy should have learned? I mean, well, we're getting to the point where I guess the little guy should have learned. We don't help each other anymore. We don't take care of each other anymore. We're no longer holding ourselves accountable, and others aren't accountable. So, cops, police officers cannot be everywhere. Teachers cannot be everywhere. We have to start taking accountability for ourselves if we want these kind of societal problems to go away. It's our culture. It's our society. And, you know, when things like this school shooting happens, we want to say it's a tragedy, it's a terrible thing. And it is, but it was foreseeable because lots of people saw it coming and didn't do enough about it to stop it. So nobody's at fault per se, but everybody's at fault. Because like in an organization, you're there to help the organization. Now, society is an organization, so we're there to help society be stable, chaos-free, good for the citizens. But when we're just apathetic and we turn a blind eye to everything, then the people who aren't team players, so to speak, they're allowed to do the things that they want to do. And especially when we sit back and pass the buck and don't take accountability, why didn't somebody in the system confront the kid and say, you know, you've said a couple of times you want to hurt people. Are you sincere? What is this about? And have a conversation, a serious conversation. When you have skills, you can learn to talk to people and you can learn to get answers because you're not trying to intimidate them. You're just simply talking to them. Because most people, especially when they have something emotionally going on, if you will engage them in conversation, it'll come out. If you ask questions, you engage them, you get them talking, because they want to talk. It's bottled up. They want to tell you. So with this kid, we should have found out what his status was. I mean, does he have a mental illness? Or has he really had a crappy life and he's really bitter and he blames everybody? Did the other kids pick on him? You know, now, even if they did, it didn't justify. My point is, we didn't take the time to find out what's really going on. We should do this everywhere in our society. And from what I've seen, pretty much in every situation where a kid goes to school shooting people, there was things that went on prior to that people ignored. How can you be a parent and not know what your kid is thinking as far as that goes, especially when they're sharing it with everybody else? So are you just ignoring it? Are you hoping that the school will raise your child? I mean, that's not going to work, as we can see. It is up to all of us. It is our culture. It is our society. And just like an organization, if we want it to operate smoothly, if we want it to be chaos-free, if we want it to be a nice environment, we have to give something to that cause. We have to be involved. You don't have to be in everybody's business all the time, but when something is right in your face and you know it's going to lead to something bad or it's not right, someone else is getting hurt or will get hurt, then you got to step up and say, you know what? It's up to me to do something about this. And you got to follow through. Just like a leader in an organization, you know, leaders like to think that they can tell somebody to do something, do that, don't do that. And that's it. I told you one time it's good. Well, how many times have we seen that fail? People, we're a little bit more difficult than just doing what you tell us. Because first of all, we want to do what we want to do. So the way you get people to do things that are in everybody's best interest is you show them how it's in their best interest too. Not through threats and intimidation, through influence. So one of the things you have to do is you have to learn how to influence people. And one of the major parts of influence, you can't influence people if you don't take accountability for things. You can't teach people if you don't take accountability. People learn by seeing, not by hearing. People do as you do, not as you tell them to do. So you have to be accountable for your own actions and your own behaviors, your own kids, your own cars, everything. You got to be accountable. If you want society to be a well-structured, enjoyable culture and place, you want to get rid of all the perceived ills in society, then you have to take action to do it. And just accusing and blaming people is not taking action. Anytime you have a conversation, that conversation should be focused on solution, not passing the buck, not blaming. So, can we make a difference in school shootings as a society if we pay attention to what our children are doing? If we talk to them, find out how they're feeling, what's going on. If there's a problem, we address it, whether it's a bully thing or whatever the problem is. In other words, we do something about it. And if somebody drops the buck and says, okay, I got this, and then they don't do anything, then we go around, through that person. We don't let the problem stay there. We continue on until the problem's gone. That's what a leader does. And in the workplace with our kids, you're a leader. We're all leaders if we have children. Understand that. And the positive aspects of leadership and influencing people are the same, whether we're being paid to lead people at work or whether we're leading our children or leading people at church. We are that example. And if we don't hold ourselves accountable, bad things are going to happen. And bad things. Do we want a society that's free of school shootings and unnecessary things like that? I think a person should be able to do anything they want to do as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else. When your freedom takes away someone else's, well, then you were allowed too much freedom. There's a point. Same thing with the government. When what they want to do starts taking things from us, that's when we need to get another government. What does a 19-year-old kid need with a weapon that was designed for one purpose? It came in, the M16, AR-15, came into use as the main battle weapon of the United States military. Okay? Now, it's been that way for decades. It was designed solely for taking people out. So they couldn't fight anymore. Killing them, maiming them, that's what it was designed for. Okay? What does a kid in the middle of a populated area in the city need with an assault rifle? Okay? Now, am I saying that he shouldn't be allowed to have an assault rifle? I'm saying there should be a little bit more scrutiny as to why they need this. What are they going to do with it? So if you see this person's got a history of being a hunter and they take things and they go, that's not really a good hunting rifle unless you're hunting people. Was what it was designed for. But you see that there's a logical history here. They're a hunter. They go out and do things. Okay, that makes sense. And there's no history of any kind of mental health. And you actually do some interviews and talk to people. I mean, we're talking about. We give people a weapon that was designed for killing other people, and then we act surprised when they do it. That's what the weapon was created for. So if you want one of those weapons, as is your freedom in America to do what you want, it's our responsibility as a member of society to find out, what are you going to do with it? Why do you need it? So we shouldn't stop the manufacturer or get down on the retailer of the gun. But we should find out, we want people who are going to use the gun responsibly, using the gun. We will take people's keys and tell them they can't drive their car drunk because it's a weapon when you're like that. And yet we let people with issues buy assault rifles. Do you see an incongruency here? It just doesn't make sense that we do that. We need to relook at the way we do things. We need to get involved. We have to get involved. That's it. Whether it's an organization or society, we cannot just be laissez-faire, let everybody do what they want to do and hope it works out okay, because that creates chaos in organizations and in society. I, for one, want us to have a society where kids can go to school and get the education that'll give them a great start in life, and they don't have to worry about getting shot. You know, and a politician just throwing, well, we should have teachers, qualified teachers carry guns. Okay, so the problem in school is guns are being brought in, people are being shot, and now we're going to come up with an idea to put more guns in school. So what happens the first time a teacher or some qualified person shoots at one of the made criminals and hits an innocent bystander? Are they going to get sued? So when we know the way we are, we like to sue everybody for everything because we don't hold people accountable, right? And we're asking a teacher to go, their job is not to go to school and be a cop. Their job is to go to school and teach. That's what they went to school for. That's what their degree is about. It's not about whether you can brandish a gun quicker than some criminal who's already thought out the plan how they're going to do it. All it's going to create is a gunfight in school, and more people are going to get hurt. So taking more guns to school is a bad idea. Figuring out how to keep guns out of school, that's the way you do it. That's what we need to talk about, is how to keep guns out of school, not bring more guns in. That's the conversation. We want our kids to be able to go to school and feel and be safe. And they're not going to be when they see teachers carrying guns and things. What happens if somebody jumps a teacher and takes the gun? I mean, you're bringing a whole... The same reason we wouldn't let pilots have a gun on the plane, because it can be taken from them and used on other people. And in school, we know we got some people out there who would just love the opportunity to have a gun already there. So we need to start taking accountability as individuals in society. And when we see people who have these issues, when we hear these issues, we need to bring it to the proper authorities. And then we need to hold the authorities accountable to actually do something with it. So you said, well, I told the police and they didn't do anything. Well, you told the police, now you told that particular police department, now tell the FBI, tell somebody else. Keep saying it until somebody does something, so something changes. So we take that threat away. And I know it's just like in an organization, it is not fun to fight the system. It is, in fact, it's a pain, and it's time consuming, but people benefit from it, including, you know, anybody with children. If somebody else does that, then your child's safe and vice versa. So it's worth the effort to keep society in a positive with a positive culture, to help society develop and maintain a positive culture. We all just ignoring everything. Well, we see what's happening all around us. The government's making stupid decisions, doing things that are hurting the citizens, and we're just trying to push more off on them. They're not even governing with what they have right now responsibly. Do we really want to give them more? We all have an opportunity to participate in society, and it's time we do so. It's time we stop passing the buck and blaming people, and kids are dying. It's enough talk, enough blame. Let's fix it, and that is everybody making a commitment to themselves and everybody else that we're going to pay attention. And if we see a problem, we're going to make sure something is done about that problem. Something that is convinced, something that solves the problem. Not just something topical, just aesthetically make it go away. No, that we really get to the root of it. Like a kid like that, he should have had some kind of help or incarceration, whatever. Because if you really have somebody who just run around who just wants to kill people, well, that's going to be a problem. So especially when they get the opportunity. So you're going to have to decide, what are you going to do about that? And then we're going to have to do something about it. We can't just ignore things. And when people do bring something up, we can't punish them for it. Because when you punish somebody who tries to do the right thing, that just makes other people not want to do the right thing. The right thing is doing what's in the best interest of the entire group, not being self-centered. That's the right thing. The right thing is we have a wonderful society, but it's got some issues that can be corrected if we just participate in society. So let's stop any more children from being shot in school. Let's not turn our schools into the OK Corral. Let's make some positive decisions by everybody committing to be accountable for their own actions, the actions of those they're raising, taking care of, nurturing. Let's take charge and make this society the wonderful place that we all want it. We just want somebody else to do it. But instead of somebody else doing it, let's make a commitment that all of us do it, and it will be a better place. Take accountability. Thanks for listening to this episode of Accountability Corner. Like it, comment, share your comments. Let's have the conversation. And let's start a conversation about this Not accusing, not blaming, not vitriol, but an honest to goodness conversation focused on creating solutions, not focused on blaming or accusing. It is what it is, but it can be changed if we work together. Like it, subscribe, and let me know what you think. Thanks. I'll see you at the next edition of Accountability Corner.